Alright, howdy folks, welcome to the channel today as we are going to take an in-depth look at Tempest Rising, an upcoming RTS game published by THQ Nordic that really reminds me of a specific RTS series I have played a lot of, but I really can't put my finger on which one. Maybe you can. Let's first check out the trailer, go over some of their screenshots and Steam store page to see what we can find out, and after that we'll go over the trailer once again and do some good old speculating. As always, you can find the game I'm talking about in the video linked below in the description and the pinned comment.
Battle command uplink initializing. Please stand by.
Land across Eurasia, most heavily affected by the fallout.
You have proven yourself loyal to me so far, General. Our dynasty has waited long enough. Show me that my trust is not misplaced.
Braces for the inevitable retaliation.
Though they may be, they are still flesh and bone. Get to work.
So from what the trailer showed, Tempest Rising seems to be heavily inspired by the Command & Conquer series, with the music even sounding like Frank Kaplaki's work. Without getting into the speculative part of the video, we can see what appears to be an equivalent to CNC's Brotherhood of Nod in the Tempest Dynasty, and the Global Defense Forces, or GDF even in their name, seem to closely resemble the GDI, or Global Defense Initiative, seen in Command & Conquer. According to the Steam store page, the classic RTS action meets modern production and performance in Tempest Rising, end quote. With base building, 3 factions, 2 campaigns, and customizable armies within these campaigns, it appears that even in 2023, the RTS genre will continue to shine as it did in 2021 and 2022 thus far. It's mentioned twice, so it must be important to mention that all 3 factions will play differently with their own distinct approach to the in-game economy and combat. The game is set on Earth after a nuclear war destroyed large parts of it. Both the GDF and Tempest will have a 15-mission campaign that, according to the Steam store, allows you to customize your army for each mission. In these campaigns, both factions have to discover what the new and mysterious Tempest vine that grows on Earth can be used for. It says that, quote, other dangers wait in the shadows as the origin of the Tempest is revealed, end quote. Now, clearly that last part could indicate some sort of extraterrestrial faction, which again sounds very familiar to the Skrin from Command & Conquer 3 and 4. And the Tempest Vines sound and even look very similar to Tiberium from Command & Conquer, with it being a mysterious but beneficial resource of which the origins are unknown. I do want to note that before we go further, is that the game will feature cutscenes between missions, of which there appears to be an example amongst the screenshots. Apparently, they are somewhat interactive, as 4 different conversation options are shown. Whether they will be somewhat tongue-in-cheek as they are in C&C, or if they're going for their own style, will obviously be something we'll see down the road. So besides these 2 customizable campaigns, the game will feature the more classic skirmish and custom games, as well as a ranked multiplayer with ELO rating for the hardcore PvP RTS players among us. The store page also mentions that the factions will not only have to deal with each other, but also with neutral populations as well as neutral structures to occupy and use as strongpoints. The neutral population part very much reminds me of a faction like the Forgotten from the Tiberian era CNC games. Now let's take a look at some of the screenshots from the store page and see if we can deduce anything from them. Now here we see what appears to be GDF forces on a patrol through a wooded area. An engineer based on his hard hat can be seen, which means that regular line infantry, as they could in Command & Conquer Generals, will probably no longer be able to capture enemy or neutral buildings. Some sort of APC with a large machine gun and firing ports heads up two larger tanks with raised turrets that somewhat resemble the old Mammoth tanks. Though here they appear to be missing the famous rocket pods. Perhaps infantry inside the APC can fire their weapons through the gun ports, like for example the Humvees in Generals. Now this screenshot sees some air support in the form of what appears to be GDF planes flying over a Tempest base, but it's the large hole on the top left that interests me more. Is that where the Tempest vines originate and grow from? We see what could be a harvester right below it, as well as what appears to be Tempest vine crystals. Notable also are the gates at the top and bottom of the base, very much reminding me of Tiberian Sun. This screenshot would confirm that different times of day, as well as different weather, are to be featured in the game, and the lighting effects on those flamethrowers and the big floodlights do look really good. Now besides different weather and times of day, we've also at least confirmed snow battles with some sort of hovercraft in the bottom left, perhaps an indication that we'll see naval units down the line. Also, something that had me do a double take was the parachute into trees on the right hand side. I thought it was maybe a hint towards the third faction, some sort of alien bug faction, but upon closer inspection, it's an upside down parachute with GDF written inside of it. Now this screenshot looks very much like the first one we looked at. There's really nothing crazy about this screenshot other than the fact that the soldiers look very highly detailed. It does make me wonder if this is an actual camera angle we can achieve in game, or if it's just a marketing screenshot. I'd personally love to be able to get this close to the action myself, whether that's during the actual game or perhaps some sort of post-match replay system. I'll keep my fingers crossed. So we already touched on this one a bit. Seeing as it's most likely from a campaign cutscene, we can actually ask for more info about the enemy's forces or just generally more information. Also, in the top left are 3 buttons. What any of these actually do remains to be seen, but I think I can make some educated guesses. For Doctrine, this could mean that you can say focus on air or ground power, giving certain units bonuses or weaknesses for that mission. Perhaps buffing your air units for that specific battle will, however, weaken your ground forces. The Commissary, I actually had to Google this one as a non-native speaker, and I was very interested when I found out what this meant. Quote, a store for equipment and provisions, or a supermarket for military personnel, end quote. Now I doubt they are going to let you buy ice cream for your soldiers to enjoy mid-battle, so this might actually be where you decide what units to buy / upgrade in your campaign. Do you research heavier tanks right away, or do you unlock helicopters first? It's also possible you can, instead of unlocking units, upgrade your units. For example, you grab helicopters, do you upgrade them with either anti-tank or anti-air missiles? This could make a big difference in certain missions. I'm 100% guessing here, of course, but I'm just kind of trying to figure out what these buttons could do. And then the Armory, here you actually decide what you want to bring into battle. Perhaps there are limited slots or specific limitations for that campaign battle. If there's a heavy sand, snow, or rainstorm going on, aircraft may end up being grounded and thus not available for that battle. Here we can see Tempest units being paradropped from a large airplane, as well as those weird tentacles again rising from the ground right below them. Of particular note is this large ball that appears to be a unit of some sort parked between 2 trucks. Also, a Little Bird helicopter wreck can be seen placing at the bottom of the screen, perhaps from the conflict before the nukes dropped. Now this screenshot really messes with my perception of the sizes of units. The infantry look huge here compared to vehicles and even buildings, so I'm not sure if this is just an optical illusion or if the infantry is actually rather big. A shot from the trailer, GDF infantry, as per the logo on the trooper's chest, are about to make contact, and I find it hard not to see some of the original GDI trooper aesthetics here in this picture, though obviously with a twist. This is a character from the campaign. I'm not going to be able to guess who or what or where he is, so we'll have to find out by playing the game who he is, if he is anybody important down the line. So now, with the screenshots and store out of the way, let's take another look at that trailer, which was very awesome, and see if there's anything else to talk about. So a big chasm has formed, possibly either due to the large nuclear war that took place in the lore, or due to these Tempest veins and weeds growing. This actually reminds me a lot of what the planet looks like in Command & Conquer 3 and 4. Now, 2 soldiers are also seen walking amongst these chasms, and they very much look like judges from Judge Dredd. One of them peeks into the abyss, while a voice talks about how their dynasty has waited long enough. Even this kind of sounds like Kane, who always talked about ascension being his final goal. A huge underground temple of some kind might house the leader of the Tempest Dynasty, or at least someone they look up to as some sort of god. GDF troops, as seen in a screenshot, appear to make contact with Tempest troops during a stormy night. Now these troopers look a lot more technologically advanced than the Tempest ones, something that again reminds me of the GDI versus NOD fight. Command & Conquer, with NOD using stealth, underhanded tactics, and older weapons to try and beat the advanced GDI forces. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can spectate battles from this low to the ground perspective, again whether it's directly in-game or via a post-battle replay system. Also, the blood coming from the hit soldier will hopefully be a part of the game, and not just added for cinematic effect. The world they are trying to paint seems very dark and full of despair, and gore effects I think would go very well along with that. Here we have a quick flash of some real gameplay, though it's probably very early gameplay that's work in progress. We can see what appears to be some sort of Abrams tank being blown up by rocket troopers on the outskirts of a GDF base. Here, even the color palette reminds me a lot of CNC. I can't stop comparing them, with red being used by Tempest and blue and gold by the GDF. Here we can see a GDF base being constructed, and this is where we're going to really get into some of the nitty-gritty details. Zooming in, on the top right we have a minimap which shows friendly structures in green, as well as a bunch of white spots which potentially are Tempest minerals that can be harvested. My reasoning for that assumption is you can actually see a harvester on top of some vines in the very bottom right of the screen, which perfectly lines up with the white area on the minimap. Now right below the minimap we see a repair, sell, and what I assume is a power switch button. The repair and sell buttons should be obvious what they do. However, the power switch button will most likely allow you to temporarily disable buildings like base defenses to keep your base below the power threshold. Then below that, we see the amount of power you have available, with the 2 white triangles pointing out how much you are currently consuming, and with probably some sort of population cap and your cash check-in account right below that. It appears you can see how much cash you actually have on hand and how much you can store, with silos handily shown in this short clip, probably allowing you to store more cash the more silos you build. And then we have the main UI, which has 5 tabs. From left to right, we have buildings, defenses, infantry, vehicles, and aerial. Of note here, there isn't a naval tab, so maybe those hovercraft are not part of a naval building. I haven't really seen much water, so we'll have to figure out what those hovercraft were, or if we even see any naval combat. What each of these categories do most likely speaks for itself, though there appears to be numbers below these tabs. What I assume is that, say you have built 2 or more barracks, you can flip between them like that, so you can have number 1 build an engineer, while barracks number 2 builds an anti-tank soldier, and number 3 builds another engineer. You can swap between them using the numbered buttons. Now here we can see main as well as side objectives in the top left of the screen, with completing side objectives most likely granting you some sort of bonus like extra units or extra cash. Also a group system in the bottom left, which besides showing you which groups are actually active, also appears to show how many units are currently in that group. Now, I'm not sure what we're seeing here. It looks like a thermal camera looking at a Tempest ore refinery, perhaps part of an in-game cutscene. Now, just a quick peek at what appears to be a Tempest base. I'm really getting some Russian/Soviet vibes from World War II, as well as China vibes from Generals, especially with what look to be the power plants and the Gatling gun defenses. I do want to point out the awesome sync in the music with the shots on the Grenadier here in the pre-rendered footage. It appears the vehicle I initially thought was a harvester deployed right next to an ore field and has then deployed multiple smaller vehicles. Now perhaps this is one of the things they mentioned on their store page, where each faction will be different in terms of in-game economy, and this could be some sort of mobile ore refinery. What I can only describe as a building that looks very similar to the Hand of Nod barracks in the background, GDF infantry is pushing towards something that looks like a very crappy Katyusha rocket launcher. Of note here are the drones flying over the GDF infantry. Perhaps they are an upgrade or an attached unit, like the drones we saw over US vehicles in CNC Generals, or a whole separate unit altogether. Then they show some more gameplay, and I'd finally like to talk about what we see here, where a group of units is selected, and in the bottom left there appears to be all sorts of buttons, some with keyboard shortcuts next to them. These could be stop, attack move, patrol, guard, or a waypoint system, and it's also nice to quickly see what units are in the selected group and how much hit points they have left. That concludes what I wanted to take a look at in the trailer for Tempest Rising and all the other stuff they've put out so far. I'm hoping that the Command & Conquer vibes this heavily gives off are warranted, and I cannot wait to hear more about this game and eventually get my hands on it sometime in 2023. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if there are any things you noticed that I missed or things that you're just really excited for yourself, and I hope to catch you in the next one.